Alrighty guys, in today's video, we're going to be getting this 440Z Arctic Cat running. Has been sitting since 2000 or 2001. If you guys are bad at math, that is over 20 years, so hopefully it turns out to be a runner. This is in the same batch of sleds we bought with that Jag 2000. These are both sitting for over 20 years. It has around 3,500 miles on it. Super nice shape, guys. It was stored inside. Let's see what it all needs. The compression was good on it, 130 per side, according to Caleb, who had purchased these sleds for me, or for him, I should say. Let's see how much mice nest is in there, because I can see some mice nest in the fan shroud. We'll look at the fuel system, we'll get that fuel drained out of it, and possibly take the air box out and just kind of evaluate. The slides on the throttle seem to be a little stuck. Choke cable is not stuck. Ignition and all that stuff is there. So I'll get you closer up in the hood here. I'll start getting the fan shroud off. I think we'll start kind of vacuuming all that stuff up and cleaning. You'll hear the wood stove blower in the background, guys. That's just trying to keep me warm in here, of course. So that's the background noise you hear. Other than that, we'll get right into it. I believe this is like a 96 440Z or Z440, whatever you want to call it. Fan cool twin carb. The hood's got one spot in the front that's bad. Other than that, it's pretty darn clean. Unscrewed the wing nut here for the clutch guard. Clutch system looks okay. You can see there's mice nest down in here. I'm going to try to get these bolts off. I think on the Cats, I should be able to just zip this top portion off, get all that crap out of there. Get these boots out of the way for the carb. They're pretty ripped open anyways for those. I might have extras or new ones in my parts inventory in the back shed. And then getting the air box out might be a fun time. We might not have to if I deem that there's not debris inside of it by looking through that way when I get the boots out. And we'll pump the gas tank out and just kind of give it a full evaluation. Like I said, this thing did run on spray, I believe. Caleb checked, so I'm not really worried that way. We can always pull the spark plugs out in a second, and after we get everything cleaned out, make sure it's good spark and verify that stuff too. So I'm gonna get those bolts. So let's start by taking these 10 millimeters out of here, get this fan shroud up and off of there, get the shop vac out. There's a bunch of mice down in the clutch area, get all that stuff out, and we'll just see how it turns out. I'm hoping, like I said, for good luck. The fuel system doesn't look terrible. It looks like the fuel was shut off, and apparently the guy ran seafoam through this thing before it was put away 20 plus years ago. So we will see what happens. Last couple bolts out of the fan shroud here. I gotta do something about the hood cable one that's attached to the hood cable. I'll probably have to brace up the hood with something. These here, I'm just getting these last couple out. I got the vacuum down in by the clutches, got all that stuff out of there. This one out. Just gonna get this one here out of here. There'll just be one left over there for the hood cable. I just gotta find something to prop that up. Got that fan shroud off. What you have to do to get that off is you gotta take the bolts down here out. There's 4 down by the primary clutch, and then all the ones around the exterior. Then this whole piece comes off. Now we have the mice nest packed in there, down in there. So I'll take the shop vac what I can, and then I'll just take air. Leave the spark plugs in, of course, blow all this crap out, and make sure there's nothing down in by the recoil and stator. And then I'll kind of visually inspect the condition of the belt. And that should do it for the mice nest, and I'll get the stuff out of the carbs too. So that's how you get that shroud off. Now let's get that handled so that's not a problem. Mice nest is cleaned out. Let's pump out the gas. I did look in the tank. I'm gonna have to put a new pickup line in the tank. But it's not mud, like the fuel line hasn't deteriorated that bad, it's just chunks, and I did see the filter, so I'll grab all that out after I get all the gas out of it. It doesn't smell awful, but it's definitely not great, so. Oh yeah, she's pretty nasty. It's more like that greenish, yellowish with the orange skin. I'll get all this crap pumped out of here. Yeah, it's definitely, you can see the, I'll try to pull the hose up high enough you guys can see. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. I always put them on a jack so the elevates it, pushing the fuel all in the front. and then I can get, you know, 90% of the bad stuff out. And you just gotta flush it. A little bit of spillage there, but not bad. These siphon pumps work pretty good. They're not amazing, but definitely helps. Off my seat here. And now I can look in there and give it a visual. Oh yeah, we got most of her out. So now I just gotta dig out chunks of fuel line with my trusty Chinese fingers. So I'll dig out all the chunks of fuel line, I'll show you guys the filter, and then I'll go from the front, pull the fitting out of the tank, and then we'll put a new line in. That'll be done, and then we just gotta work on carburetors and up in front. Then this thing should be operational and running. I always leave the fan shrouds off until the first start. In case there's stuff from the bottom, it'll kick it out of there and not get lodged in the fan shroud that I just had off. So that way it cleans it out. It's not going to overheat if you don't run it for that long, just to get it running, and then I'll put the fan shroud back on after I know 95 to 100% of the mice nest is gone. I know I got the majority of it out already, but I always leave it off just for that first startup, especially this thing's been sitting a long time. That'll get most of the mice nest out of it. So let's get that tank figured out. I'll put the camera back on when we're putting the new pickup line in. A lot of work to get these pickup lines changed. You actually got to pull the tank out, unless you can feed yourself a socket through the little bitty opening in the dash plate on these Arctic Cats. It goes through a hole in the dash plate and then down into the tank fitting. I got the tank over there off. Good thing we did take it off with the seat because the wiring is chewed by mice underneath in the back there, and then also inside the seat pouch there's a bare spot of wire, so I'm gonna have to patch all that stuff up before that seat goes back on, and then we can clean out the tank thoroughly. I had to grind off one of the bolts for the seat mount. I'll just put a through bolt all the way through with some nice fender washers. The other side is still there fairly decently, I guess, so we'll keep that one. And then I got to get the, your dash is loose here with a couple Phillips screws on the bottom with nuts on the bottom of these from the back side. A little bit longer in terms of labor to do all this stuff, guys, but it has to be done if you want it right. And it's a good thing we found the bared wires on the seat there, so I'll show you guys that later. I had shop vac back out, vacuum up. There was more mice down in there where the intake screen is for the air box, so we'll get all that stuff out. The hood hinges are broke up pretty good. I actually had the hood fall on me, so I think I completely ruined the hinge on the left side. So we'll have to do some patching there. It was already patched, so it's not like it was mint and I snapped it, but definitely not great, so we'll have to fix that eventually. So I'll keep moving along here, getting the air box out hopefully, and just do a full evaluation that way. Got the air box removed. This is how, this is how it sits in there, like this. All you gotta do, it's like a press fit, just take a pry bar behind this corner here and pop it out the front and just lift it out. And then when you go back in, you're gonna go in like this and pop it back so that that bar sits right there, your crossbar, which is there. So that's how you get the air box out. I didn't have to loosen up these other bolts anywhere. I'm gonna tighten all those back up. I didn't take a ton off. I got the throttles freed up, so they're moving again. We'll get these carburetors off next, and then we'll work on replacing the pickup line in the tank and looking at that wiring, try to get that stuff handled, and then we'll put this stuff back together in the meantime. But we'll pull the carbs next. These are the carbs. They have these electronic micro switches on them, basically like a Taurus system that Yamaha used. This is very similar to that. So sometimes they give trouble, sometimes not. We'll get that unplugged, pop the fuel lines off. Fuel lines are real nice and soft yet. The choke cable, like I said, was free, so we just gotta loosen up the clamps, get those carbs off. We'll label everything and just try to see how bad they are. And if hopefully they're not too terrible, you get them clean real quick, slap it back together, and I hope to have this thing running yet in this video. These throttle caps do have the locks on them, so you gotta take a Phillips from this way, loosen them up. I just turn them 90 degrees, retighten the bolt so I don't lose it to the screw. Slides do have some varnish on the needles. A little bit concerning. That tells me the inside of them's probably a little worse off than we thought. Ooh. nice and tight. I get some in-force down in here. If you guys are looking for good penetrating oil or rust penetrant, BG in-force. That's some good stuff. It has unseized a lot of things for us over the years. So get a little bit in there. We'll take a look at the skirts and everything as well. We'll get a 12, pop the choke off of there, and we'll work on getting the other side off. I'll probably scribe these because we're probably going to get some brake clean on it, and it'll most likely take my paint mark off. So I put a P on that one for the PTO side. Let me get the chokes out, and then we'll hopefully get a carb on the bench and see what happens. Can't remember if these have the drain hoses on them, like Polaris. I think they do, which is down there. I think that one's broken off, but we will verify when we get inside. I don't do a ton of these newer cat, like when I say newer, I mean 90s. Carburetors are a little bit different. They're Mikunis, but they got a special square looking bowl, a rectangular. Kind of special to Arctic Cat. I call them Arctic Cat carbs. So we'll get that off, and then we'll see how bad the internals are. You can hear the floats are jangling, so that's a good sign that they're not, obviously stuck, and there shouldn't be too much varnish in there. I do believe there's supposed to be a hose on the end of this with a cap on the end of it, like Polaris's would have. So I believe that is the case on these, so I'll make something happen with that. Maybe I'll look down in the pan there and see if I can find the end of it. Or the plastic, cap for it. I was off to make something, but I will get these evaluated on the bench and see how the interior or internals are. I did soak all the choke cables and everything with some in-force, try to get those, the adjusters and making sure that they spin and pivot and all that stuff. It just makes it easier down the road in case something would break off or you got to repair something that's not seized into the metal housing. Piston skirts look good. The internals look good. There was oil inside there, so that's a plus. We'll get this fuel system straightened away, do a little bit of electrical repairs on the seat, and I think we can have this thing slapped back together and running hopefully soon. The first carb was great. Inside, I just blew everything out with air and a little bit of brake clean. Bowls were clean. This one, like I said, the floats are moving on this one. Let's put a new hose on yet. We'll get this float bowl off. But I have a feeling this one will be just as good. The only thing on the other one was the float was a little hung up. Got it freed up. The needle and seat looked like it was, newer, wasn't varnished or nothing. Got some gas down the fuel inlet. Kind of got it lubricated with some fuel with oil. And that kind of took care of the sticky float. Everything seemed to function after that. Like I said, I don't foresee anything really causing us issues with varnish because there really wasn't anything in the bowls. All the jets were perfectly clean. The guy did say, he's like, I don't think these need carb cleans, and he kind of was right, so. Yeah, this one's just as good. You can see there's not really any varnish. Float's all moving good. Inside the carb, float height looks good. Let's see if, yeah, this float valve wants to move. Just the spring-loaded thing is a little stuck, so I gotta quick move that. Float bowl's good. Carburetor, might be able to even see daylight through. You can see the pilot jet and the main jet there. Perfectly clean. So I usually just one time spray through everything, take the air screw out, reset that, clean that out. Slap this thing back together, and this will be good. We'll add some hoses to the bottom of the bowls. Find either a bolt or something to stick in there, and maybe I'll improvise on that. But we'll get that handled, and then we'll go back over to the machine, get those carbs and cables and everything routed back in, check synchronization of the carbs. All right, guys, got the new hoses put on. Basically cut off like a 5/16 bolt, put the shank end in the 1/4-inch fuel line, zip tie around it. Very, very tight fit. Don't believe it's gonna leak anytime soon. So that's what I did for those. Got the mag side carb installed. Choke started to spin now. I don't have to worry about turning the carburetor. It's not seized anymore, so that's good. Fuel line's back on that carb. Let's slap this carb in. Get its choke cable installed. So that was down in here like this. There. Let's see if this one and this one is also unseized, I believe. Get that up out of the way. No, it wants to be. There, now I think it'll go. There we go. Just take our 12 wrench, snug that up. And we just gotta clean up the slides and get those set in. And then she's ready for the airbox and that sort of stuff to go back in. These boots are pretty much shot, but I'll put them back in anyways, just for looks. These boots here, they're ripped, connecting the airbox to the carbs. Somebody's already electrical taped it, but I'm gonna put them back in anyways, just because it'll look better that way. Yes, they're ripped, but at least it'll somewhat suck air out of the top and not from inside the hood. So I want to get the carbs buttoned up, clean the varnish off the slides, and then we'll start working on getting those boots back on and in the airbox, slipping that back in. That's got a little bracket for that. Now we can work on the boots. Looks like they gotta go in with the thing down like this. We get them nice and warm in the stove here. I will fight these boots, guys, and let you know how it goes. Work on the other side, maybe I'll get that on camera. But it's just gonna be like 5 minutes of me fighting it. So fuel tank cleaned out. There's just a little remnants of old fuel line in there. Like 2 or 3 little sniblets that I can't pick up with my little grabber tool. Got our new pickup line here with the filter. I'm gonna put a little bit of crankcase sealer on the threads. Put that in the tank. Here, flinging around in there. What I usually do is I tighten it in until it's laying on the bottom. It's gonna be a 1/2 inch on this one, I believe. So I take my flashlight, and I usually look down in there at it as I'm tightening it in, just to make sure that it looks like this one's gonna be laying in the corner over there, which is fine. So that'll work. We'll leave it like that. Fitting is tightened. So that is the pickup line done on there. Now we can work on the wiring. See if I can show you guys that. Wiring. Right down there where the spot where that's bare. Mice were chewing on it, so I'm gonna try to repair that best I can. If I gotta just cut that piece of wire out and crimp a new piece in or whatnot, but I'll let you know, guys know what I come up with for a fix there. Alrighty guys, got the tail light assembly out. Kind of had to drill out the head of that one. It was all seized and rusted, spinning in there. So that's, I got a way to fix it, but it's not gonna be pretty. I did patch up the wiring, got some crimp on heat shrinkable connectors. I'm gonna put some plastic loom over this. I had to take the tail light assembly out because I couldn't repair these wires with it up in the seat. So it was easier to just do it with it out, and I'll put the new fastener on the left side. Loom this all up nice with a little bit of electrical tape, tape up the loom, and slip this back in the seat assembly, and then the seat and tank can go back on. And then we're on the downward stretch there. So this was one of the most tedious repairs here. I had to get this out. Had to drill the head of that bolt out, that stud for the tail light. That took a little bit. So we're getting there. I'll update you when we get the assembly back in the tank and ready to go back on the sled. We're gonna put the fuel tank and seat assembly back in. Got the wiring all taken care of, tail light lights back on. The air box is already in there. And all the nasty waste debris that I think I got out of here. Hold that out one more time, yeah. Good. Plug this in now. That's all plugged in. As long as that sits. That sits in the belly here. We're in good shape. I'm in the channel here. Should be sitting okay. Let's tuck that thing, push it down when the seat's set in there better. The fuel line I put on from the outlet of the tank to the filter area to the shutoff, that line's kind of poked, kind of kinked up like this, so I gotta make sure it goes through the hole in the front here. There's a hole right down in there by the steering shaft where the fuel line comes out. Right now it's kind of poking up into that screen over there on the airbox. So I gotta get that, and then we'll get the tank sat down, and then I can find a new bolt for the one side and get that situated. And that's how much fussing around you gotta do to get the tank back in. It's not terrible, but you don't wanna pinch the wires for the taillight, and you wanna make sure you hook your vent line up. Make sure everything sits happy, nothing gets pinched. And then you can put fasteners back in and button up that cowling and dash plate. Got the fuel tank all buttoned back up. Actually got to tighten up a couple bolts yet, now that I remember. A couple bolts on the bottom got to get tightened up for the final time. And then we got the fuel filter plumbed in. That was a little bit of a stretch time there, trying to get all that in. But I got to get these here quick tightened. Ones that hold the console to the side. That one. I don't know why they used Phillips on one side and nylock nuts on the other side, but works good when they're not rusted. But if they rust, you're in a world of hurt trying to get them off. I'll dump all this gas in, I don't think. Get some more. We'll choke it and we'll give her some pulls and we'll see what happens. I didn't check the track to see if it was free. Those brakes have to be bled out a little bit. Fluid change in the brakes. It spins though. A little bit laborsome, but this thing's been dry for 20 years. Okay. All right, we'll give that a shot. I didn't see anything flying out of the fan shroud, so we can put that back on. And then we'll kind of see, maybe I got to adjust those air screws. They were like at a half turn. I put them back out at like a turn and a half. Maybe I should bump those back in a little bit, but at least it runs. I'm going to futz with it a little bit here and put that shroud back on, and then we'll see how it runs. Get it outside. It's a little warm in here, so here's a little startup. Idling about 18 too, which is nice. Alrighty guys, so here is the 440Z or the Z440. Took it out for a ride. I got the carburetors adjusted. I had those air screws out too far. I had to back them in a ways. I got them at 3/4 of a turn out. This is a 1995, if you guys are curious. It's running pretty good. The brakes need looking into. The brake light I think might be stuck on all the time right now. The brakes do work, but I think I need to bleed them out and get rid of that 20-year-old brake fluid. I don't want to have a caliper fire because that kind of sucks and it burns down the oil bottle. So other than that, lights all work, speedometer works, tack works. Hand warmers do not work, but that is what it is. I got to add one bolt to the seat yet. I have one that wasn't broke off. I put that back in. Everything else is buttoned up. The hood's going to need attention. I'll patch that up. But here's a nice little walk around of the sled. Pretty darn sharp sled. I haven't even wiped it down. Still has the original dust from in the garage. Carbides are excellent. The thing steers really nice. A lot of power for a 440, guys. I'll be doing a race between this and my Super Sport 440 this winter. See which one's faster, which one's better. That'll be a nice race. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed another revival. 20 years of sitting. Can't go any better than this. At least I'm driving it after a long day's work. Probably had 6 hours in this one. But it is what it is. You want to have fun, you got to spend some time. So make sure you leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one.